avoiding errors in sampling. And there is another point for discussion, which is reliability of the sample, that how reliable is your sample. We know that while conducting a research, we must be making sure that our study is reliable and our sample is reliable, because it's an important issue for the samples to be reliable. There are different ways that how can we make sure that our sample is reliable. So we can decide on the basis of our selection, and then on the basis of the features which are to be explored, we are required to make sure that all those features and characteristics are the part of the samples which are selected, right? So one way is that by selecting another parallel sample, right? While selecting one complete main group of sample, we can also go for a parallel sampling, so that our source of data is not one and we can have another parallel data, and we can make sure that whatever is selected is the true representative of the population. Then we also have another possibility if we are comparing sub in main sample, right? Because if there is the man sample and we are also maintaining a parallel sampling, then the parallel sampling would be giving us an opportunity to make sure that whatever we are selecting is appropriate and it is accurate. So that's an important way to have reliable reliable sample. And then there are some statistical techniques which can also be used for making your sample reliable, okay? Because some possibility is there that our sample may not be reliable. Then there are some techniques, like we may be using some randomization, right? Like for example, if we are to select some students and we have a list of the students, then we may be selecting through one systematic randomization and probability sampling. Like we may be selecting every even number or every fifth number, right? So that is actually the way we can systematically make sure that every member of the population has equal chance to be the part of the sample, right? So that is another statistical ways. And we also have some reliability tests. So we can also do those reliability tests in order to make our sample reliable, right? So reliability of the statistical sample is another point which is made sure through reliability tests, and our data is just based on the reliable sampling. Let me just give you one figure, and you would analyze that how one sample or the data given samples or subjects, how they are required to be reflecting whatever is already as a population, or whatever step is already there. So every coming next step is based on the previous point, and this is called the sampling cycle. And within sampling cycle, you would be making sure that whatever stage you are working is basically the true representative of the preceding stage. Okay, so let's go to this figure. Within this figure, when you have decided about your universe population, right, you are making sure through various possibilities, right, through various steps, that the invited sample, they are actually the participants of the invited sample, they are the representatives of the actual population, the universe population, right? And the next step, which is accepting samples, right? Those samples who are accepting your invitation to be the part of the study, they are taken from invited sample. So from the invited sample, the accepting sample is basically the true representative of this step of this stage, right? Similarly, you are using various ways to make sure that the accepting sample are basically based on the invited sample, and they have every feature of the invited sample as their characteristic, right? And then after the accepting sample are decided, right, you actually collect data, and data producing sample who are actually giving you the data, you are drawing data from them, they are also resembling each other. They are having features which are common to them, right? So that your reliable sample is available for data, right? So every step, the point is that every step is based on the previous one, and it should be the true representative of the previous step. Okay, so when you have produced the data from the sample here at this stage, and then you analyze and interpret your data within these steps, and ultimately you are coming up with your findings. Your findings and generalizations are basically the true representation of the data producing sample. Okay, and then when you are actually generalizing and you are interpreting whatever is coming up to you as data, that is generalizable to the whole population, to the whole universe. So this is called the sample cycle, and this sample cycle is basically required to make sure that whatever stage you are working is basically the true representative of the previous preceding stage and step. So that's a basic requirement for having reliable sample.